Coach Dan here from Rise Above, and I'm here to help you meal prep more efficiently and more simplistic. Because 9 times out of 10 when it comes to meal prep, it gets way overcomplicated every single time. So I'm going to show you how I go about my meal prep. So basically what I've done here is I've broken up my whiteboard into 4 different quadrants. Quadrant 1, breakfast, 2, lunch, 3, dinner, and then 4, my snacks. So, I say, before I even write anything out on this board, unless if I have a craving for something, you know, maybe like a steak sandwich or something like that, I generally start with a blank whiteboard and go from there. And the first place I always start is my freezer. Why do I start there? Well, that's where I keep all my frozen foods. I say whether or not that those are frozen veggies, fruits, you know, meats, you know, whatever, patties, burgers, you know, it doesn't matter. Whatever you've got frozen, that's the first place I always start. Why? 1, you bought it, you should eat it. And 2, you already have it, so you don't need to buy anything else. But I'm gonna get to that more in a second here. So basically, when I meal prep, I go to my freezer, so I look inside and I see, oh, I've got steak. And I actually probably have too much steak, so that's what I'm gonna go ahead and have for lunch. Steak. All right, and from there, I'm not gonna decide what else I'm gonna eat with that steak yet. I'm gonna keep looking through my freezer and, oh, what did I find? Shrimp. I'll have that for dinner. Keep looking, and nothing else that I would want for breakfast or snacks. So I've got a great jumping off point here. The next stop that I take is, okay, what do I wanna eat with my steak? Well, I know I need to eat some sort of veggie, so I'm just gonna write that down, a veggie. I'll figure that out later, and I'll tell you how I figure that out in a second here. The next thing I'm gonna basically say is, okay, what else do I wanna eat with my steak? In terms of a carb. So I know I need to eat a carb. What's that carb going to be? I'm not sure yet. Let me think about it. So I could go a couple different routes here. 1, generally speaking, I wanna keep it as a whole food. So what does that mean? It shouldn't be processed. So, you know, you shouldn't get, you know, like a rice cake or something like that. Not that a rice cake would be bad or anything like that, but you know, you wouldn't want something that's processed under your carb. So the things that I look at in terms of carbs, I look at rice, potatoes, quinoa, you know, those are my big 3. I know I just said don't put processed food in there. I will throw a pasta in there every once in a while. You know, beans are a good, you know, source of carbs. So for this particular meal though, I look through my local, basically grocery store ad on what's on sale. The first thing I see that's on sale, broccoli. All right, I've got my protein, I've got my veggie. Now I need to decide my carb and what goes really well with steak in my opinion? Potatoes. And I literally have a meal and hold on just 1 second, I'll be back. All right, I'm back, and guess what I have in my container? I've got my steak, my potatoes, and you know, I said broccoli, but I forgot that asparagus was on sale. I don't know if you can see this, but I will go ahead and show you. And steak, potatoes, asparagus. I'm gonna be eating this all week, and there's nothing fancy about it, and it's gonna taste delicious. All right, so let's go ahead and let's start building out dinner. And wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with the shrimp, and I was like, what haven't I had in a while? And this was more of an impulse, and I basically was like, I haven't had shrimp tacos in a while, let's go with shrimp tacos. So that's exactly what I did, is I made shrimp tacos, and I put everything that I like in my tacos. Now, because I'm going to be eating this meal at work, tortillas aren't really an option, so I know, okay, I'm gonna put rice to replace my tortilla, perfectly fine. Now it's a taco bowl, whatever. What else do I like to put in my tacos? I like corn, I like beans, I like peppers, and onions. On top of that, salsa as well. Guess what I did? I threw all of that in a crock pot and let it sit and cook. Super easy. And this took all of 30 minutes to make. This was a set and forget. Did just that. So now I only have 2 meals to go. Breakfast, well, I had eggs last week. I don't want eggs 2 weeks in a row, so I'm keeping it simple. I'm gonna do protein pancakes. I get a whopping 30 to 35 grams of protein just from my protein pancakes. And then in terms of snacks, I only have one snack in the day, and this never changes for me. That's how much I like it. I eat it every single day. It's yogurt, berries, and granola. Another super easy meal. And this is what I'm here to show you, is that this doesn't have to be complicated. This was probably my most complicated meal, my shrimp tacos, and it wasn't that hard. This whole thing took me all of maybe an hour and a half to cook. And that's where I'm going with this, is you don't have to make things overly complicated. Sit yourself down, instead of maybe a, shrimp taco, let's say a shrimp stir fry, and say where it's, stir fry veggies over a bed of rice. Super simple. And guess what? The stir fry veggies, they've got them in the freezer aisle. They literally have a package that says stir fry vegetables on it. I love it. It's super simple. It's got all the veggies I want in there for a stir fry. And again, this would only take all of 30 to 45 minutes to make. And that's sort of the goal is, you look up all these recipes and things like that, and they're so overly complicated where you have to chop a million different things. Keep it simple. And I say, this meal is probably gonna be my favorite meal of the week. Steak, veggies, and potatoes. Super simple. Again, it took me 12 minutes to cook my steak. And it wasn't broccoli, it was asparagus, but it took me like 10 minutes to make my asparagus. In the whole time that I'm cooking both of those things, I had my potatoes going, and the potatoes took about 30 minutes. So you can see how it's sort of, just done, is that, this meal took about 45 minutes with prep and actual cooking. Again, I'm not making anything overly complicated here. I'm actually keeping it super simple. So I say keep it simple. And this is how I would do it. I say, if I erase all this, and say I'll just do lunch, and say, you get the idea is that, think of a protein, think of a veggie, and think of a carb you want to eat. And then guess what you do is, okay, I've got chicken. Okay, awesome. Do I have any frozen veggies or fresh veggies? Oh, cool. I've got, spinach in the refrigerator. And then your carb? Oh, I also have potatoes, or, I just bought a bag of rice last week. There's nothing wrong with this meal. It's extremely nutritious, and you can make it taste however you want. And use some seasoning, and garlic powder, salt, pepper, onion powder, chili powder, cumin, thyme, oregano, basil. Throw some of those things in there. Make this taste good. And if you don't feel like doing your own blend, go to the seasoning aisle and grab a packet of whatever sounds good, throw it in there, and it's gonna be good. And that's the thing is, these aren't hard to do, and they should taste good at the same time. This sounds like an awesome meal. If I had spinach, you're probably gonna see this meal. And actually, you'll probably see this meal soon for me as well. So again, don't overcomplicate things. Ask yourself, what needs to be on the plate? You need a protein, a veggie, and a carb. As long as you get one of those things on your plate, you're gonna be good to go. And then that's one less thing you have to think about, other than maybe the quantity you need to make. But again, keep it simple. And if you don't keep it simple, you're not gonna wanna do it. Again, this took me all of an hour and a half to finish, with my protein pancakes taking the longest time because I make one at a time, and I need to make like 12 of them. So I this, 2 minutes. This, 30 to 45, oh wait, that's a different meal. But this would only take me, if I bought the packaging, this would probably take a half hour. This, 30 to 45 minutes. So again, keep it simple. If you can't make it in less than an hour, it's not worth making.